At this full moon in Gemini, you must allow your mental contradictions to collapse. Whatever it is that you are saying, which is the message, is inextricably equivalent to the way that you are saying it, which is the medium. In other words, you are your voice. There is no deeper meaning or specific message. At this full moon in Gemini, there is only an opportunity to expand your emotional bandwidth through curiosity. Debates about duality, at least under this full moon, are not helpful towards whatever goal it is that you are trying to achieve. For example, form versus content, fate versus free will, or even spirituality and materiality. The astrology of this full moon cancels out these opposites through one simple signature, and that is the sun and the moon being exactly square to the lunar nodes. We feel this personally in whatever brief moment that the argument suddenly isn't compelling to continue. Instead, we decide that we're going to act on what we know, which is ultimately a decision that allows us to remain curious and open and flexible. That's really it. In this video, I'll break down the mechanics of this double square to the lunar nodes, increasing your mental flexibility. Because the truth is we really need that training. Each of our minds is only 2 years into a 20-year-long cycle of destruction and renewal, with Pluto moving through Aquarius, fellow air sign. So let's have some Gemini-style fun and be curious about where this goes. All right, the medium is the message. This is actually a quote from an author named McLuhan. I'm going to be reading a little bit from one of his writings. This PDF is linked in the description below if you want to follow along or read the entire thing yourself. Before I jump in, McLuhan uses the example of a light bulb to convey how every message is in fact just medium. There is no reducible cause. There is no message. Here are a few quotes from his seminal piece, Understanding Media, the Extensions of Man. The electric light is pure information. It is a medium without a message, as it were, unless it is used to spell out some verbal ad or name. This fact, characteristic of all media, means that the content of any medium is always another medium. Whether the light is being used for brain surgery or night baseball is a matter of indifference. The message of the electric light is like the message of electric power in industry, totally radical, pervasive, and decentralized. That one thing follows another accounts for nothing. Nothing follows from following except change. So the greatest of all reversals occurred with electricity, that ended sequence by making things instant. Instead of asking which came first, the chicken or the egg, it suddenly seemed that a chicken was an egg's idea for getting more eggs. So, a chicken is just an egg's idea for making more eggs. Let's go with that. In our astrological case today, the moon in Gemini are these eggs, and the sun in Sagittarius is the chicken. Whatever core belief you are currently creatively expressing in your life right now, which is the sun in Sagittarius, is simply the force that will allow you to continue exploring your personal emotional truth with curiosity, and that is the moon in Gemini. So, exploring emotional truth is really the whole point of this moon. But then the question becomes, what is motivating us? What is motivating us to do this endlessly? And why are we able to collapse it so easily this time in the way that I think we are? I'll tell you. We can do it this time because we are perfectly devoted to unknowable truth. Let's get into the astrology of it now. Devotion in this context is the South Node in Virgo. The unknowable truth is the North Node in Pisces. Because the full moon is an opposition that is making an exact square to both lunar nodes, we are in perfect alignment of our devotion to unknowable truth. When one planet squares the lunar nodes, that planet needs to make a decision. It either needs to resolve itself through the past or through the future. Which is it? That depends on which node that planet last touched in the sequence of time. That's called the resolution node. Then, if you have two planets that are opposing each other and squaring the lunar nodes, you need to make two opposite decisions. And that's why it can feel like they can cancel each other out. One will always resolve through the past, which is the south node, and the other will always resolve through the future, which is the north node. In this case, the moon in Gemini is resolving through the north node in Pisces, and the sun in Sagittarius is resolving through the south node in Virgo. Not to mention, Mercury, which is the ruler of this full moon in Gemini, is just about to perfect its grand trine in the sign of Scorpio to the other water signs, to Jupiter in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces. This is huge. So let me emotionally translate this for all of us. Your creative will, which is the sun in Sagittarius, is begging to be used practically for daily devotion. Meanwhile, all of the eggs, the data that you are getting out of the process of using your creative will on a daily basis in a devotional manner, all of the data you're getting out of that process are like eggs that you are throwing into an endless creative abyss. Okay? Now, it might seem contradictory to be carelessly sending your eggs, your thoughts, your data into a limitless abyss while you are feeling the responsibility to attend to pre-existing patterns, pre-existing reality. Collapsing this duality, perception of what is right to be doing, kind of looks like sincerely devoting your daily energy to throwing eggs into an abyss and not only believing, but knowing that this is the absolute best thing that you're supposed to be doing with your time right now. Let me say this another way. The moon wants us in this square to take our emotional curiosity, moon in Gemini, and do new things with it, okay? To move forward with endless creativity, North Node in Pisces, and with very little concern or analysis of why we're doing what we're doing. And the sun is pulling us to do the opposite, bringing the creative expression in Sagittarius through the South Node in Virgo, which looks like us devoting our creative freedom to something that is already well established or well trodden in our lives, that takes daily attention, that needs analysis and refinement. We really need to do both of these things. We need to do the new creative emotional abyss, and we need to go and refine our creative output through the past. The medium is the message. What this amounts to, in the way that I see it, is curbing the challenging effects of both the North Node and the South Node. You're going to realize in some moment that your curiosity is not necessarily boundless and abysmal. It has a direction, and that refining your creative expression does not actually dull or suck the life out of it. And as I said, the ruler of this full moon, which is Mercury, in Scorpio, completing this grand trine to Jupiter and Saturn, is harmonizing authentic emotional wisdom with a well-earned spiritual maturity that we have developed over the last few years. Mercury in Scorpio is the communication of that deep desire for truth. There is a challenge here because that Mercury in Scorpio ruling this full moon is ruled by Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius is destroying and rebuilding our mind right now. It is very easy to go into obsessive thinking or fear, doom, gloom about the fact that we can find data upon data upon data upon data as to why things shouldn't be working out right now, why our minds are against us. But here's the reality. Gemini is also an air sign, and it is an element-based trine to Pluto. This, in and of itself, is a wide opportunity for us to harmonize with the deeper changes that are happening in the Aquarian realm of our life right now. Gemini wants us to stay humorous, curious, open to possibility, open to dialogue, because there is always new data to take in and to analyze. Nothing is fixed. Some would say it's turtles all the way down. The medium is the message. Don't overthink what's going on at this full moon. Collapse any internal battles that you are having into this present moment and make it your full-time job to design Easter eggs and then throw them into the abyss. Figure out how that maps to your life. If you haven't already, check out my recent video on specifically Pluto's transit through Aquarius and why I think it's a shiny orb that is completely destroying and rebuilding our lives very slowly over the next 20 years. And till the next one, bye for now.